to be frank, there are some countries like Germany that didn't import any oil and gas from Russia now, but the European Union as a whole has some countries that are continuing to import oil and gas from Russia. And it's a progress in the European Union that we reach consensus, and we need consensus on that.
Over 20 nations supporting Ukraine have pledged to take Russian oil and gas off the global market as part of efforts to pressure President Putin to end the war. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said pressure on Russia was the only way to stop the fighting. However, no long-range missile deliveries to Ukraine was announced at the summit. So what did it achieve? Joining us now is Jurgen Hardt, German MP in the governing CDU and chair of the Bundestag Foreign Affairs Committee. Good morning to you, and thanks very much for joining us.
Good morning.
How would you categorize this summit? We saw a whole load of pomp and ceremony. We heard warm words, but was it really a success in terms of any concrete promise of action for Ukraine?
I think the Ukraine has to face a tough winter because Russian attacks harmed energy supply in Ukraine very seriously. Also, gas storage and gas compression stations. Though that the Ukrainians have to face a tough winter, and they have to face around 700 drones a day attacking not only military but also civilian targets in Ukraine, as it was, for example, yesterday or the day before yesterday, a kindergarten behind the front line. Therefore, we are thinking about what can we do to help Ukraine to come over that winter and to face the challenge also in the fourth year of that war. And the German assessment is that only a strong Ukraine will bring us to a point where Putin is able and willing to negotiate on a fair base, because only if he has to take into consideration that probably it might become a never-ending story or a failure for him, then he might start to negotiate to end that war. If he believes that he can conquer Ukraine and make Ukraine to a marionette state of its regime, as long as he thinks that, he will continue that war. And therefore, we need military and civilian support for Ukraine, and trying out the sources of Russia, which contributes to that war, which is mainly energy export of oil and gas. And it was a huge success of the European Union, and also sidelined by the decisions of the US president, that there will be an earlier end of import of Russian gas, liquid gas to Europe, and also of oil, and that there are sanctioning of the big oil factories of Russia now worldwide. And on the other hand, there was no consensus on that European summit how to use the Russian frozen assets as a guarantee for loan to Ukraine. The idea of the German government and of others is to give a credit to Ukraine of about 100 billion euros or so, to finance the war against Russia and the civil infrastructure of Ukraine, and using as a guarantee for that, using Russian frozen assets that are located in Belgium. And up to today, there's no consensus with Belgium and the others how to use that, and there was a demand on the Commission now to develop a plan how this money can be used in that way. I explained.
Okay, well, we might come back to that one, but just on the so militarily, everyone will follow your logic, but nothing happening to stop the drones, but progress indeed on trying to cut the oil. What people will think is, when this oil and gas, much of which has been exported by Russia to Germany over the last 3 years, while that is funding the war, why has it taken so unbelievably long to actually move towards doing something about it? Because the war is happening in real time. People are dying, the country's being destroyed in real time, but the pace of the diplomacy has fallen. I was around in 2022 when we got some sanctions off the cards very, very quickly. But people will be quite shocked that Putin has benefited as much as he has from exporting oil and gas throughout the whole period since then.
Mm. To be frank, there are some countries like Germany that didn't import any oil and gas from Russia now, but the European Union as a whole has some countries that are continuing to import oil and gas from Russia. And it's a progress in the European Union that we reach consensus, and we need consensus on that to end that up to end of next year, and the gas import up to 27. This is, from my point of view, too late, but better than it was before. And on the other hand, I think we should make clear that our military support for Ukraine should continue as it is and should be increased. And this is the second field. German industry, for example, Rheinmetall, is delivering anti-drone weapons and ammunition to Ukraine. We have not yet enough anti-drone systems in Europe to fight against such a huge number of small drones coming in, but there's a huge progress in delivering that to Ukraine. Unfortunately, at the moment, the air defense in Ukraine is weak. But on the other hand, if someone would have mentioned 3.5 years ago that up to today, end of 25, Russia didn't reach more than it reached up to today. Also, most of the people would say the strong Russia would be able to conquer Ukraine immediately, and would be surprised to hear that Ukraine is still standing as it stands. Therefore, I see a big chance that if we continue our support over the winter, and that if we increase our support on the economic side and on the military side and on the sanction side, in spring next year, the Ukraine has the chance to get back the momentum in that war. And with that new momentum, probably we also come to a point where Putin says, because he risks a failure and a defeat, he might start negotiations. And on the other hand, it's very important for us all, and this is where we appreciate it very much, also the work of the Prime Minister of UK, that we want to convince the US President to continue weapon support for Ukraine, as Senate wants to have.
And thank you very much, Jurgen Hardt. Dankeschön for joining us this morning.